The teachers and students would openly talk about their hatred for America. I really could not justify spending that kind of money on what was really an indoctrination camp. My name is Misha Petrov, and this is my story. My grandparents, they escaped the Soviet Union, and my mom came from Russia. She met my father in New York, and I'm from New York, born and raised. So growing up, I went to a public school, and it was fairly liberal. I was kind of used to having the teachers say, we're not going to talk about politics in the classroom, and that started to change a lot. And then slowly but surely, they started to talk about what candidates they supported and hated. My grandparents, they really loved America because of freedom of speech. They were right-leaning, and I knew that. We didn't have many political discussions at all, and I was fairly apolitical before high school. But as I started to hear these leftist ideas from my teachers, from my peers, from the media I was consuming, I definitely became more involved in politics and very liberal. I would come home and not really want to have a discussion with my grandparents, but rather, want to turn it into a screaming match. It definitely strained my relationship with them. When I talked to my friends about the issues I was facing with my family, I was often told that when I turned 18, I should cut off all contact with them, because if anyone disagrees with us, then they were a bigot. I was being indoctrinated. I did adopt a victim mentality as well, and I did believe that because I was born a woman, I'm doomed to suffer for the rest of my life because of the patriarchy. My friends and I, we would often view traditionally more feminine women as submitting to the patriarchy, especially if they got married, if they had kids. We would avoid anything, feminine, like feminine clothing, for example, like the plague, because again, that was giving into the patriarchy. A lot of people were normalizing hookup culture as well. Things like OnlyFans, and a lot of people I heard were saying, well, when I graduate, I don't really want to go to university, might as well start an OnlyFans, because that was being advertised as an easy way to become rich quick. I was very pro-LGBTQ rights, and so I did attend Pride events. And I did not expect to see these displays of fetish and kinks and half-naked men and women at these events that were labeled kid-friendly or family-friendly. I was with my friends, and I told them, this is going too far. And to my surprise, they said, no, this is completely fine. I soon learned that I couldn't even question it. The left does always say that they are tolerant, that they're very loving and accepting. I did find that to be extremely hypocritical with the way that they treated those who disagreed with them. There was that fear of being kicked out of the friend group. So that was the first kind of red flag for me. This was around the time of the BLM riots, and we would look at, social media and what was happening, and these groups of people, they were burning down small businesses even. And when I brought it up to my friends again, they said, no, they're just fighting for equality. And I was thinking, okay, I don't think, robbing a Louis Vuitton store is really fighting for equality. I also saw this documentary, it's called The Social Dilemma. And that just talked about the echo chambers that we find ourselves in. It really resonated with me, especially when it talked about how friend groups were being torn apart. So I shared a clip about it on my social media. Almost immediately, I had these messages from my friends saying, oh, so you're conservative now. I couldn't even post a clip like that because that was suspicious to them. I thought once I graduate high school, things will be different. And I couldn't have been more wrong because university was only 10 times worse. On the first day, there was a 6-foot-tall man in the bathroom. It was just a random guy that walked into the restroom. Other women were visibly uncomfortable, and I was just waiting for someone to say something. And no one said a word. So I thought that the classes at least would be different and a place where you can discuss these things, things that we actually believe in without the fear of being canceled or excommunicated from a friend group. First of all, every class started with the land acknowledgement and how we were all on stolen land. And of course, every class we had to go around the room and tell everyone our pronouns so that we don't misgender anybody. There was constant talk about how white people were inherently racist. Even if you don't believe you're racist, you are racist. We had to write a certain thing to get a good grade. And then the teachers and students would openly talk about their hatred for America. I didn't quite expect people to be proudly saying they were communists, for example, or to have a poster of Marx in their dorm. And as someone whose grandparents escaped the Soviet Union, that for me was also another moment where I really could not justify spending that kind of money on what was really an indoctrination camp. That was the last straw, and I knew I had to leave. After all of these events, I left the left. I started to actually interact with conservatives, both online and in the real world. And I saw that they weren't all these bigots and scary monsters that you can't associate yourself with. And I did see a stark difference in the language that they used. I stopped hearing the my truth, your truth, and that there were actual absolute truths. And I think that really did improve my mental health because I no longer had that victim mentality. People tend to only focus on their sexuality, their race, rather than thinking, okay, if I work hard, I can succeed in America. So I decided to talk about my experience online. I did start posting YouTube videos specifically about my experience in university, of leaving the left, and almost immediately got these responses from people who were in a similar situation as I was, and almost felt like the left left them because of how extreme it had become. I really like to use my platform to talk about the trends that are harming individuals, especially on social media. At many points in my life, I've noticed I spend way too much time on social media, on my phone in general, and a lot of people are now preferring those online communities instead of going out into the real world and trying to find friends and a potential partner, especially when you are getting used to now these AI chatbots and AI boyfriends and girlfriends. That person doesn't exist. An issue that we in Gen Z are facing is echo chambers, because that's where a lot of people can become indoctrinated. Because if you're only getting content from the left, for example, or only from the right, that's not a good sign, and that they should really hear from different perspectives. I have lost friends, but I've made so many new friends who are totally fine when we do disagree. And to those who are constantly being told that they should cut off their family members, I really do think it's important to keep your loved ones close and try and make friends in the real world. Thank you so much for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.